Hello, everyone. This is Daryl Guberman. I'm the CEO of Guberman PMC LLC, a quality consulting firm here in Connecticut. I've told you time and time again, but for those who are new to the channel, I thank you for your arrival. I appreciate it. We've been involved with quality for over 40 plus years. Our background stems in manufacturing, as far as aerospace, medical implants, medical materials, printing, and plastic distribution, where we dealt in every industry unknown to mankind. I'd like to just quote you a David Foster Wallace. I think it's very appropriate for this. A friend of mine was discussing this with me, and I said to him, do you realize that nobody in town here, in my town, knows, they know Sikorsky, but they don't know who owns it. They didn't even know who owned it when United Technologies owned it, up to 2015. They didn't know. I know. If you ask somebody in upstate Connecticut, you say, do you know Sikorsky Aircraft? And they scratch their head. Many, not all, I'm not saying all. But this video today is about, can Connecticut and our nation survive its fools? Rosa DeLauro, Jim Himes, Christopher Murphy, and Richard Blumenthal. And before I get really deeply involved with this, as I said, David Foster Wallace said this: the truth will set you free, but not until it is finished with you. So we're going to continue on. Let's introduce some of these people. Rosa DeLauro. Watch. Rosa, you've been in office too long. You know why? When we take you up, see that? A lot of dust on her. We got Richard Blumenthal. He's not camera shy. We have Chris Murphy here. He's not camera shy either. And then we have Jim Himes. Let me give you a little bit of background on me, ladies and gentlemen. This is a picture of Joe Lieberman. You remember Joe? He was a senator here, and he was also a runner in the vice presidential candidate under Al Gore years ago. This is a picture over my parents' house back in 1974. I was 12 years old. This is Bill Clinton. Bill and Hillary were introduced to my mom and dad in 1971. I was 9 years old. And he wanted to learn about Northern politics. My mom was introduced to him by Abe Ribicoff. You can't make this stuff up. These names are like yesterday it happened. So Bill was always happy with my mom, always called her all the time. I was called, as a matter of fact, when he became president, I was called many times by his secretary, Betty Curry, asking me to come to the White House, shake his hand, and hasta la vista, baby. And I don't regret not going because I was pretty busy with school. But nevertheless, we do have to verify this. We have a condolence letter for our family concerning my mom back in 2010 from Hillary and Bill. If you want, I will gladly email it to you. My email is daryltqrs@yahoo.com, or you can call me 203-556-1493. I wanted to verify the integrity, honesty, and the truth. So Lockheed Martin in 2009 gets hacked by China. In 2013, I gave a speech at the American Society for Quality, both the Fairfield County and New Haven branches. And there was a gentleman, a Dave Levy, a Region 3 director from the ASQ, American Society for Quality, which owned the American National Accrediting Board 50%. The other 50% was owned by the American National Standards Institute. In 2018, the American National Standards Institute took 100% ownership over from ASQ to the American National Accrediting Board. So they owned it 100%. They are underwriters for the International Accreditation Forum incorporated in Delaware. It's a repository for national and international accreditation bodies. Any company that is on there, that is an accreditation body, is protected by ANSI-ANAB because they are underwriters for the IAF. They're also underwriters for the International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation. You see that Lockheed sits on ANSI's board. They also sit over by the accreditation body, ANAB, that ANSI had taken over. They call out in many of their procedures and protocols the situation that they only use ANSI-ANAB accreditation, which are IAF members, of course. In 2015 to 21, the IAF, International Accreditation Forum, was handed over to a communist Chinese national who's been involved with our quality for since 1994. Now, getting back to that speech I gave in 2013, Dave Levy, Region 3 Director, okay, heavyweight batter there, 50% ownership. He was a representation of ASQ. He said, Mr. Guberman, we have no problem with what you're doing with Guberman PMC or GPMC. In fact, we support you. ANAB supports you. I have that information both on video, audio, and in writing. Another thing is this, in 2012 now, you have the factor that United Technologies gets hacked. Their Sikorsky aircraft gets hacked in 2012. In 2015, I tried as I may to warn Lockheed Martin. We lost a customer back to his registrar because he came over to us because, of course, because of our knowledge and technology, our knowledge, our experience, we really assist companies in quality issues, anything that goes on. And their company that they had squealed to Lockheed, and Lockheed said, oh, we can't have that. The reason why is, as I said, Lockheed sat on ANSI's board by their accreditation body, ANAP, and they also sat on the IAF that was controlled by Communist China. Okay, 2015 to 2021, they're an associate member. Sitting by Lockheed on the IAF, who are equivalent in accreditation to ANSI ANAP, is Iran and Pakistan. Iran, who just most recently killed 3 of our servicemen through the financing of Hamas. How do you like them apples? They also got their certificate taken away for lack of payment from what we gather. You also have Pakistan, who harbored Osama bin Laden. So what we did is we wrote Lockheed, we said, listen, you're going to be watched over by China. So this is what Lisa Gross wrote, and she was the ethics officer. To Daryl Guberman, in order to meet our customer requirements, Lockheed deals with entities that are certified through the American International Accreditation Forum, now watched over by China. I added that into this letter. Your company is not a registrar of the communist-led IAF Incorporated in Delaware, and therefore your accreditation is not recognized by Lockheed Martin. So, what happened is this. This was in the Connecticut Mirror in 2015. Lockheed Martin purchased Sikorsky aircraft. It stated, with China's okay, Lockheed Martin to close on the purchase of Sikorsky aircraft. Now think about this, our number one aerospace manufacturer, military manufacturer, needed China's approval. And here's what the politicians said here, Rosa DeLauro, Jim Himes, Christopher Murphy, and Richard Blumenthal. Connecticut lawmakers Rosa DeLauro, Richard Blumenthal, Chris Murphy, and Jim Himes praised our number one military contractor, Lockheed Martin, for working with a communist China. Make matters even better, some of you say, no, they didn't hack us. Almost this certainly did. Here is Lockheed Martin's F-35. Here is China's duplicate copycat. Here is the Black Hawk helicopter that's produced by Sikorsky. And here's the Black Hawk helicopter produced by China. I'm going to read this to you because I think it is very important that I let you know about our political figures here. You also have and they also are on Lockheed's disbursements. Lockheed in all 50 states have disbursements, both Democrats and Republicans. You know, these guys back here, Garrett Graves, Sam Graves, and Rick Larson, all have gotten their dibs with Lockheed Martin. Yes, so how can we have reliability, though, when you have Mr. Larson over there giving a speech, you know, asking the FAA administrator, Mike Whitaker, what's going on with Boeing and their quality, and you also have Garrett Graves who's sitting there, and they're all collecting money from Lockheed. Lockheed, in the most recent article, after their 801st F-35 produced, they were produced, the first one, 801, still has rejections up to including loss of aircraft and loss of pilot. Can you just imagine that? So how can these guys be asking these pertinent questions to a guy like Mike Whitaker when they are getting financed by a company who's got poor quality? What's going on here, ladies and gentlemen? So let me read this to you. This is from Marcus Tullius Cicero. And this goes for all our politicians, not just Rosa DeLauro, Jim Himes, Chris Murphy, and Richard Blumenthal. It goes to every one of the politicians on that payoff list, the disbursements list for Lockheed Martin. A nation can survive its fools and even the ambitious, but it cannot survive treason from within. An enemy at the gates. An enemy at the gates is less formidable, for he or she is known, and he or she carries his or her banners openly against the city. But the traitor moves among those within the gates freely, his or her sly whispers rustling through all the alleys, heard in the very halls of government itself. For the traitor appears no traitor. He or she speaks in the accents familiar to his or her victims, and he or she wears their face and their garments, and he or she appeals to the baseness that lies deep in the hearts of all men and women. He or she rots the soul of the nation. He or she works secretly and unknown in the night to undermine the pillars of the city. He or she infects the body politic so that it can no longer resist. A murderer is less to be feared. Marcus Tullius Cicero. That was about 2,000 years ago. And here we go. You have our own representation praising our number one contractor for working with communist China. You have Christopher Wray. Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, gets up and says we must maintain vigilance over communist China, yet his FBI was on the ANZI membership 2015 to 21 when they were watched over by communist China on the IAF. Can you imagine that? I'm going to leave it here. My telephone number is 203-556-1493 or Daryl, TQRS at yahoo.com. And once again, can Connecticut and our nation survive its fools? Rosa DeLauro, Jim Himes, Christopher Murphy, Richard Blumenthal, Democrats and Republicans. I called this guy's office and his aide said, call your representation. Ladies and gentlemen, do you think I would get anything resolved calling Richard Blumenthal, Chris Murphy, Jim Himes, and Rosa DeLauro? Think, ladies and gentlemen, and think hard. We're in a state of 3.6 million people divided into 7 representatives. That's over 500,000 people that these people don't do shit with. Oh, unbelievable. 203-556-1493 or Daryl, DARYL, TQRS at yahoo.com. And you know something? My company is my family name. Integrity, honesty, and the truth. And I will tell you this. This is no conspiracy theory. This is a fact. We're in deep shit. Thank you.